Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now Show, the voice of the DSO industry. Kim Larson and Bill Newman talk to industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. Visit groupdentistrynow.com for more DSO analysis, news, and events. Looking for a job or have a job to fill? Visit joindso.com. We hope you enjoy today's show.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Group Dentistry Now Show. I'm Bill Newman, and as always, thanks for listening in, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, or any one of the number of listening platforms. We appreciate you. You might be watching us on YouTube, or you just found us on groupdentistrynow.com. So thanks for listening or watching. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. And of course, without great guests, we wouldn't have an audience. So the next great guest that we have here is Kiltesh Patel. He is the co-founder and CEO of tab32. You may have seen him at one of the many DSO meetings. If you haven't seen him, you have probably seen tab32. But either way, welcome, Kiltesh, to the Group Dentistry Now Show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate this for an amazing opportunity. I look forward to having an amazing discussion with you.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of your team members. I saw your team members at the ADSO meeting recently, and gosh, I feel like I see them just about everywhere. And you and I met, gosh, it's got to be 3 years, maybe longer, maybe 4 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yep. So a little bit of background on Kiltash, and then I'm going to let him fill in any of the blanks here. He has his MBA, and like I mentioned, he is the CEO and co-founder of tab32, the dental industry's #1 complete cloud-based technology platform, and we're going to find out all about that in a second. Earlier in his career, Kiltash worked as an informatics product manager at the University of California, Davis School of Medicine. He also served as the Director of Technology and Medical Informatics for Health Sciences at the University of California, San Diego, where he received his MBA. So the first question is, because I don't know if everybody knows what informatics is, so that since this is your area of expertise, I'd love to get your definition on that and why that was kind of a focus of yours.
Well, so back in time, I used to work at the Center of translation science. What it meant was we took a lot of data and derived the meaning. This is about 10, 12 years ago when AI is still in infancy, but this is even before an infancy stage where supercomputers were needed to do a computing for some model development and whatnot. And that is the time that I started working on some of this translation science research across the genomics. And that's where I came from as my background of an informatics. And the informatics term itself is to derive a meaning from underlying data in an intelligent way. Basically, that's what your informatics is, right? And how can it help do either a better care, better service, or whatever it may be, efficiency that we are talking about. That's where I came from. And specifically at the work itself, we used to do some research around genomics and the breast cancer. I've written several novel algorithms, which is kind of an informatics to find those cancer genes within the strand of the gene. So that's what that little informatics word meant and what I did back in time.
So you're originally working on informatics in regards to cancer and specifically breast cancer. So take us through how you ended up in the dental industry and the creation of tab32.
Right. So when I started my business school, while pursuing it, I figured that there could be some exciting problems, interesting problems that could be solved. And one of the areas, because my background was in informatics and big data management, it turned out that where can I make the most impact? And I felt that dental, I did evaluate few other areas, but dental came out to be one of the areas where I felt that the data is really in silos. It's not really available. The care models could be innovated to deliver more efficient and better care. And also patient engagement was not at center. It's in the fragments. So if you think and take this and rewind this 10 years or 15 years, 12 years ago at least, right? This is the infancy of everything that when I started thinking about it. And that's where I felt that I could make a huge impact if I could figure out a way where I can build better care models, engage patients better in a very meaningful way, and then obviously leverage that data that is sitting under the desk of the provider to then, how can I really get that out into the cloud? So this is all that story that started. And the first hurdle that I came across was data. It really doesn't exist. This is 10 years ago. Every single app was sitting fragmented. And that's where I felt that let's first do the hard lab, which is making sure that we have an amazing or a backbone that can address the business need in a one single operational efficiency, leveraging the efficiencies across the patient care, patient engagement, and also the care delivery model. So that comes the practice management platform. And then obviously you build on top of it, the rest of it. What in turn we have done is we have really, really discovered the data. And that is what, this story of this last 5-7 years is that we have taken that hard lab. Now we are putting that into play and we have amassed so much data and we are learning so much data. And towards later part of this, if we get an opportunity, we can talk about some AI things that are happening at the front. And I can assure you that probably tab32 might be the biggest data store in the dental industry as we speak across. And some amazing stuff is happening in the R&D labs at the moment.
Really interesting. So you talk a little bit about the past, which was there was no data out there, or it was siloed, so you weren't able to access it and do anything with it, right? So when you talk about data, what types of data are you speaking about? So we're not just talking about patient information, right? We're to talk about the data.
Well, so it's every aspect of a care that we're talking about, right? Either you are starting, think of this, when before I came into this industry, people were thinking practice management is something which is scheduling and charting. Charting was also sold separately. If you rewind even 5 more years, charting was not a module as well, right? So charting was also sold separately. Now, these were all disparate systems. So when you think about that, and when I come in to say that we want to create a better care models, how do you really do if the systems are decoupled and really don't even talk to each other in many in the way it should be? So that's where I came into play and said that let's talk about what patient care is and what patient-centered care is. And it doesn't start when patient really enters into the practice. It starts way beyond, right? So, often you hear a lot of people talking about, we want to deliver Starbucks experience, right? But how do you deliver that Starbucks experience when you have such a siloed information and not really know what that patient, if patient has to wait for 30 minutes in your practice, most likely that patient is not going to return, right? That's kind of a number that we are looking into and we are diving deeper into. How can you make sure that that patient, when has waited for whatever the reason, returns happily with an intervention, right? That's the kind of a technology that we need in play. We don't have that. We have reactive technologies. We might know that, but it's only reactive when we lose that patient, right? So that's the kind of thought processes when we started building out the systems. And if you think about that, I'll just summarize it that from the time that patient thinks about going to a provider or patient is returning patient, which is booking an appointment online, reputation management, to all the way everything in the care workflow to the money in the bank of the provider. That's what I mean by data, because that's an entire longitudinal care data across not only care and clinical, but also on the financial parts, also on the scheduling part, also on the engagement part, if you think about it, right? So it's an entire breadth of data that we are talking about. And analytics cannot be done on one specific thing. You have to understand the entire continuum of data. That's where you can deliver and create better care models.
So that's really where you're focused on the data, and then that's really how tab32 was born, right? With that
Absolutely
focus from the data side. Tell me about what you've seen as you enter the dental industry, and you see the way things were set up, siloed, different modules, program. They didn't talk to each other, right? So you're able to do certain things over here and certain things over there. They weren't necessarily cloud-based. So now tab32 has been around for a while. You continue to innovate. What are you doing currently that gets you excited? I'm just kind of curious about where tab32 stands right now, and tell me about maybe where you are compared to some of the other platforms out there. We don't have to name any names, but
okay. So let's do one thing first. Let me explain you what tab32 does, because it's a very loaded question that you have there, right?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about what tab32 does today. So tab32 is a platform technology that addresses your basic practice management needs. On top of practice management needs, there are 5 or 6 other systems or vendors that you are using. It consolidates into one platform, which is our practice management platform, and delivers an efficient care workflows, patient provider workflows, obviously, to help manage the care as well as the finances and everything else. So if you think of patient communication module, practice reputation, which is reputation management, if you think of radiology or imaging platform, like, or let's not name it like you said, but any imaging module, and then claims, attachments, as well as the analytics. These are all 5, 6 different things really where you are sitting on this. We have it seamlessly under one platform. What it does is obviously it's a cost function of a cost, right? And we can provide that service at much more cost effective. But second is the transparency that it brings. So imagine that you might have APIs, but APIs are not really the way to really create transparency across what is happening in which system. It has to be one platform. You can have 5 different systems, buy those 5 different systems and have it layered out. It's not going to deliver you that result. You need to have a platform. That is what it is going to deliver you results. So that is where we highly differentiate. So if I had to answer your question about what tab32 does today, it's an all-in-one comprehensive, robust platform which addresses from start to finish of a patient journey, from patient engagement to all the way to money in the bank of a provider through its practice management platform.
So a holistic patient journey platform.
Correct. So that's number one that you're talking about. Now, the other part of your question was how do we differentiate among the competition? So one of the things that you have to understand in the context of technology is that technology gets outdated very quickly. So you buy a $5,000 top of the line Sony television today, within 2 years, you will see that in under $1,500 or $1,000 in Walmart, right? That's the kind of exponential cost,
Right.
And the variability cost decreases for the technology. And that's true for even the technology systems that exist today. So something which is built, the reason I'm giving you this analogy is that something that is built 15 years ago has amassed so much technology debt over a period of a time that you can put band-aids and band-aids and band-aids, but at some point you have to rip off that band-aid. But when you try to rip off that band-aid, There is no easy way than to rewrite the entire system, which is not easy. We have seen this over and over. BlackBerry not being able to innovate quickly enough to meet the iPhone standards, right? Vanished. And there are so many other examples even on social media before Facebook came on, right? If you remember, so many of them. It's all about technology. It's about scalability and a lot of factors that come into play. And that's where I feel that the major strategic difference is that you might want to look in the rear view mirror when you're driving, right? But you do not want to make the decision looking in the rear view mirror, what is for next 10, 15 years, right? Next 10, 15 years is about technology, innovations, cloud, and it's picking up momentum. And that is where you need to make those right decisions technologically and strategically to make sure that you get what you get. Because if you go back, if you make those decisions 10, 15 years old, you will have a lot of trouble moving forward in many different ways. Now, the second part to the differentiation factor is obviously the way we have built out our technology itself. So when I say it replaces 5, 6 different modules or vendors on a single platform, if you think of all our competition, they have to beg, borrow, or partner, or even buy in some cases all these modules to make it look like if it is one, but they're still selling you a la carte of what you need rather than giving you a one platform across the board. That's where, you know, we highly differentiate. If you put apples to apples in a comparison, tab32 will always come out as number one in terms of providing the number of features, number of services, and the efficiencies across the board, including the cost. So that's where I feel that the bigger differentiation comes from tab32. Besides that, the technology, which is the third tier, which I started with, will allow you to give a bigger aspects. For example, a big aggregation of data is within seconds, you get an aggregated view of, you might have 50 locations, you might have 100 locations. Within seconds, you will get those aggregated results of what is happening either at the executive level, regional level, or an office level, right? You don't have to download those Excels, thousands of Excels to really then reactively build those production and collection and your recall reports. Really, this is happening in live and real time. And that is what I meant, you know, when I said that, you know, you can, if you want to deliver services like Starbucks, right? You need to know your data, you need to understand that data, and that data can help you in real time, right? You cannot make the decision by second guessing. And that's where, you know, this whole thing comes up. So I think that important tier of technology and data is another aspect. And then obviously, you know, the things that I've spoken about, like AI and other things, are only going to add on more when it comes to a major differentiation amongst all of this other competition that is going to come along.
Yeah.
Hope that helps. Right?
Yeah, that helps out quite a bit. So you mentioned tech debt. Just to clarify that, I mean, do you see with a lot of the multi-sites out there, do you see DSOs using older technology? And it's a term that's new to me, but makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can get yourself in trouble, you know, using something, and like you talked about it, you put Band-Aids on it, and eventually you need to move on. And in some cases, it's paralyzing to move on because, you know, you've been using such an old system that to update and upgrade can be a massive undertaking.
Correct. I mean, just a simple example, it slows down. Innovation slows down. The new features does not come as fast as you would like, right? It always feels like business is stretching to meet the technology rather than technology meeting the business need, right? The ideal state of a technology should be that technology meets your business needs, not business meets your technology, right? That is what will happen. And you will see that. You might not realize or able to pinpoint it, but when you see certain aspects that why is technology lacking this and that, why do I have to wait for 24 hours to get my data? Or why do I have to wait for this and that? Really, that is the technology. If you really clean the sand up, right? And you would go deep down, you would realize that that is technology that happens. And like it or not, you as a customer are going to inherit that cost directly or indirectly. And it's a significant cost you're talking about, right? Because revamping is basically rewriting 10 years ago, something that was rewritten. And that in itself is a huge disruption when it happens. And it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. It's just a matter of time.
So talk to me about, what you would consider a true cloud technology. You talked a little bit about having to wait to get your information versus that real-time access, that on-demand access. We hear the need for cloud dentistry, right? A cloud platform, but what does that mean? And are there different types that exist out there?
Right. So I would explain this in two ways, right? One is on a way that web technology has evolved, which is Web 1.0, Web 2.0. I don't know if you've heard about those terms, but there are very common terms used in this particular area. And what happens is that you can take server-based application and host it on the cloud, and there is no guards, right? That is saying that that's not cloud-based, but that is also cloud-based. But is it going to deliver you the efficiency that you need? No, probably what you have done is you have taken your machine from the desk to the cloud, but that is all you have done, right? It's not going to give you more benefits other than what it was, and it inherits all the limitations that existed. That's your legacy technology hosted on cloud. Then there is this Web 1.0, which is basically the 10-15 years old technologies. These were technologies that were made with HTML1 and older technologies that really were made for intranet and then inter-office communication platforms and other things. Obviously, people also leveraged it for the larger enterprise needs as well. But those technologies are written in such a way that they are very, very much focused on the limitations of CPU, the amount of RAM that it has, the infrastructure of that particular system that it has. It does not easily scale. With the cloud that it is, which is today and last few years, the phenomenon is that you can scale up number of CPUs. You might have often heard, oh, I can scale up number of CPUs. I can scale up easily number of RAM, which is required to read this, and I can have a farm. But these technologies, which are 15 years old, cannot easily leverage that. So what will happen is you indirectly are using these technologies to host it on a cloud, no different than a legacy system with all the limitations that existed on the enterprise infrastructure, because those data centers were not really standard data structure and scalable data structure. So you are inheriting all those limitations again. It might seem that you are cloud, but you're still inheriting a lot of limitations the same way. Unless you have really rewritten it using Google, Amazon, or even Azure's technologies, which are built in a way that are modularized enough to leverage those cloud functions in highly scalable way, that is when it's going to make an impact. And that is where tab32 differentiates itself from all the competition, I can say, at this point in the market, where we are probably the only one who is truly written on the cloud platform that allows us to scale 100 machines in a split of a second, right? That's how fast it is. And that allows us to have n number of clients as fast as we can. It's important for you as a business. Imagine the downtime that you could get or slowness that you could get. That is critical part of your business. I can tell you and guarantee you at this point that tab32 has 98.987 uptime probability and percentage across the board, right? I can tell you for last 2017, we haven't gone down. We haven't gone down from 8 to 5, only for a couple of hours in maintenance over the weekend is what tab32's record is, right? And we have transparently made that available to all our customers on our portal, saying, hey guys, here it is. Here is what the stats looks like, right? That only is possible when you have a technology which is really, really scalable and provides that kind of in-depth, strong infrastructure, right? So that's where I feel that differentiation of Web 2.0 comes in from Web 1.0. Now, there is one more tier that, if you don't mind, I would love to share with you, is that we talked about legacy, we talked about Web 1.0, and now we're talking about Web 2.0, right? That's your cloud infrastructure. You can host it on cloud. We call it true cloud because it's 2.0. But there is yet another tier, which is an vertical tier, where I'm talking about horizontal tier. So there is SaaS 1.0 and SaaS 2.0. So let me explain you what SaaS 1.0 is. SaaS, SaaS, software as a service 1.0. What it really means is that there was a race about 10 years ago to take anything that was client server, thick under the desk technology, to code it on the cloud and host it on the cloud and scale it on the cloud. That was a race that was happening. You might have heard lots of systems doing that. Some of the examples could be, your HR systems, all your accounting systems, right? Gusto and whatnot. All of them have done the same thing. But what has happened is that SaaS 1.0 was a race to take all the systems to the cloud and code it into cloud. SaaS 2.0, where tab32 differentiates itself, is not so much of a race to take one system, two system, three system at a time. SaaS 2.0 is about platform, thinking and having a vision of a platform, and then leveraging that platform to provide all the services across the care continuum, covering the entire vertical care chain, basically, right? So that's what SaaS 2.0 differs from SaaS 1.0. So if you take 5 different vendors, they all might provide cloud, but you're still not getting that efficiencies, effectiveness, still a lot of cost, right? That is where tab32 has innovated in last 7 years to have one single platform. And you can see us as an, I can call us as an undisputed leader, because a lot of folks in the industry have realized that and started buying companies, either it be a radiology imaging company or analytics company. They've started putting together that portfolio that looks as if it is one, but it is still not one. It's still different, right? That's the major difference of it. So to all in all answer the difference, that's what true cloud technology means. Web 2.0, SaaS 2.0. And it's very technical, probably that you might be not expecting it, but I thought your viewers who might be technical might love it. Or like
we have a lot of CIOs and CTOs that listen in, so this will be great for them. They can geek out on this. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, so it's moving from true cloud technology over to AI. Again, AI is all the rage now, right? We hear AI in dentistry and the different AI companies that are out there. It exists everywhere. I think as as consumers, we see it in our everyday lives, right? We're getting used to it with whether it's the Amazon platform that seems to know what anticipates our ordering or give us suggestions based on what we've ordered in the past, things like that. So talk to me about the AI that tab32 is using, and just in general, what your thoughts are of AI in dentistry.
Well, AI is definitely a buzzword as we speak. How much it has to be seen in the time. I feel personally that AI is going to matter if there is an ROI, service ROI, better services, better care, and you can measure that in a clear ROI. Beyond, I'm trying to remove all the clouds around buzzwords and getting straight to the point that what it means from a user's perspective and how it's going to scale up. I'm sure if you rewind 5 years, you might have heard big data and so much around big data, right? and nothing happened since then. It was a buzzword, but nobody could really clear out the cloud, right? That's where my head is at, that if you clear out this cloud, it seems that AI could be an amazing tool, amazing technology that can help if we can create a use case that has better care services from providers perspective, from insurance perspective, or whoever it may be. Now, that being said, tab32 has been sitting on the humongous data. You will be amazed that we have so much data across the board, like almost 15 million patient records that we have, and growing, more than 100,000, 100 million outpatient visits that we are sitting on, which is, your appointment, treatment, care data. We are sitting on one of the huge data that we are leveraging as we speak. Some exciting stuff is coming up, but we are thinking that beyond the AI is a buzzword, how can we make it that is provider centric? And when I say that, it's not only the practice management data, I also mean that it's equally for the radiographs. Basically, we have all kinds of radiographs. In fact, we probably might be one of the vendors who has radiology image across all different types of sensors, all different types of intraoral cameras and whatnot. So the breadth and depth of image understanding is one of the deepest that we can bring in this particular space. Now, that being said, I definitely am excited about it, but I'm a little bit cautious that let's not get into the buzz phenomenon of it, but let's make it really a use case. Some of our AI modules are upcoming in Q3, Q4 of this year. It's pretty exciting stuff, but I would like to still see a lot more validation. That's where my head is at, if you ask me from an AI perspective. And I can also tell you that little bit about the AI itself, right? So because there is just a lot of questions around AI, it depends on what question a user or a data owner is asking. That's what it means. What data you have, the data that you have, and what question you are asking to that data, right? So AI is not going to solve everything. Forget about that. AI is only going to solve the problem of the question that you are asking to the data that you possess. The data might be infinite, but you only have part of that infinite, right? That is the only answer that is going to answer. It's not going to come up automatically answer for everything. So in other words, what I'm trying to explain is that more data that you have, every aspect. So let's take an example of imaging data. 50 different sensors. You might have one sensor, right? Or one imaging platform. But if you have 50 different sensors, 50 different intraoral cameras, and you have huge data set, which is what your data set, and you're asking a question against that, those models are going to sail well than something which is built on one specific aspect of it. It's going to be very difficult to scale at that point. So something that people should understand what this AI is and how AI is going to address some of those things. I personally feel that once the whole buzzness goes off it, right? The fizzle goes, it's going to be an ROI, and that's what tab32 is preparing for.
So let's talk about your area of expertise, that informatics side. As we talk about data collection, storage, and organization, from a DSO perspective, when they're evaluating practice management software, why should that be part of their decision tree? So, and are you seeing that? Like, is that something that's being evaluated like it should be? Again, the storage, the organization, the collection of data, when it comes to saying, hey, we're looking at practice management solution. Are they actually evaluating that?
Unfortunately, the awareness is quite low unless you really have a built out tech team at the DSO level. awareness is very, very minimal. And I want to get your help and leverage your platform to really help and educate a lot of our folks that when you're making this decision of your practice management, think 5 steps ahead. And 5 steps ahead, if you anywhere resonate in that 5 steps ahead, that I want patient care as an exceptional patient care, right? Then make sure that you have a better understanding of your data. Just don't make decisions because of deals and this and that. The data is going to make the extremely important factor, or it's going to be an extremely important factor in your growth moving forward. And that being said, what I really would like your users to focus on is that make sure that the practice management you choose has an ability to really give you data in a real time or near real time. If not, do not get into a conversations of API. APIs really, I've done data warehouse so many years. API is not an answer to your data warehouse. Your data warehouse really needs to be a separate platform or a system that allows you to view all your locations data, either it be an aggregated view at an regional level or global level, or at a practice level. Your data should be there in that data warehouse. Just make sure about those aspects of it, and make sure that your basic tenets of the system has those features built in, rather than saying you have an API, you go leverage APIs. And for the benefit of your users, do you mind if I explain a little bit on API, if that's okay, rather, Bill?
Yep.
So the reason that one should use API is not to build data warehouse to get your collections, and that's not the right way. The APIs basically are used as a transactional communication when you are trying to do one small transaction between the two systems. That's what application programming interface, API, is technically used for. It's not used for data exchange at the data dump level, right? You cannot dump data of 50, 100 page. That's not what API is for. APIs are not built for that. So do not get into API conversations unless you are building some amazing patient engagement workflows, which is integrating into your website. You're talking to the scheduler, right? That's where the use of API is, not to build the data warehouse, to be very precise on that example. Hope that helps, Bill. I'm going a little more technical than you might want.
No, this is great. This is excellent information. And the nice thing is, if people need to listen to it again, they can do that, right? So, no, great points around data collection, storage, organization, and the use of APIs, or don't use APIs when it comes to large data dumps. So that's the lesson there for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, as we talk about data, we're talking about data quite a bit here on this podcast. Let's talk about data analytics and DSOs actually, evaluating these analytics, having access to it, and then, of course, being able to act on that. So how does having access to this data really help them grow their businesses, and why should they care?
Right. So number one thing is, I speak with a lot of DSOs who happen to have inherited different practice management systems. Bill, what I have, and many of them, I've helped them to build a standardized model where we can pull data from, since I can't use the name, system A, system B, system C, across different practice managements, and consolidate into one standardized model, which we provide as a service as well, by the way. And we're working with a lot of DSOs. And that data then allows them to build their reports in a real time or near real time, basically. The benefit of building such a reports on the single system is that you're not building to a particular practice management. Imagine if you had 20 different practice management, how many reports are you going to build? it's difficult to maintain, manage, and everything around that. So that's where tab32 comes and provides its data warehouse platform, apart from its practice management platform, where you can have different practice managements spitting out their data into one single standardized model that we have created our proprietary with understanding of last 10 years that really is built to make sure that it delivers you a data, either it be a production, either it be a recall, or either it may be your peer mix, all kinds of data reports can be generated on top of it. Now, coming back to your bigger question was analytics. So this is the building block. Data warehouse is a building block for analytics. Now, imagine your analytics is a very conceptually it is a very huge umbrella, but I'm only going to talk about a smaller umbrella within that, which is business intelligence report, BI reports, basically, which is what most of us are talking about when we are talking about analytics. It's a lot bigger umbrella from an analytics perspective. So coming to the business intelligence reports, what happens is that within this building block of data warehouse, if you had one standardized model, you can now go and acquire 20 different locations with all kinds of practice management. You're still good because you get that data right into that same standard model, and then your reports work as it was before, right? So the idea would be with that kind of infrastructure where you have this business intelligence and under the hood of analytics allows you to make those decisions effectively. Let's take what I've heard today and seen today. And I'm sure you must have heard that, I'm not going to name, but a DSO getting compromised by a ransomware because some data drives were locked out by ransomware, right? What was on that drive? Excel documents, Excel reports, right? Why do you need to have Excel reports, right? That's where the bigger problem is challenging, right? And for getting such a 100 location or even 50 location DSO to organize, if you do not have structured information in a right, secure and compliant infrastructure, you are bound and vulnerable no matter what it is that you are doing. You are bound and vulnerable to have this issue. It's going to happen sooner or later. It's just a matter of risk and risk mitigation, right, in the time frame. So coming back to our data discussion here, why it is critical? Because every report, you do not want them in the hindsight. You want real-time report. You can't make decisions these days hoping that somebody will drop an Excel. Analyst would take 5 days to build the report, and on end of the week or early next week or 15 days, I'll get that report and hope that once a month I get that report, I'm good with it, right? No, you need to know your markers on a weekly basis. You need to know your markers compared to the previous years this week when you are comparing your data, and that has to happen. And it can only happen with a technology and infrastructure like data warehouse as a TNet, and then you can build on top of it. And that's where I feel it is important. Those experiences that we talk cannot be delivered in void. You can't have Excels to deliver, Starbucks doesn't look at 50 Excels to deliver experience. It's happening in real time, right? That experience that you enter into store, collect your tea, or you order it on your phone and you go there and pick up, it's happening in real time, right? And we need to catch up on that. And it only helps accelerate that process, if it makes sense.
A great conversation. As we start to wrap things up here, Kiltash, just you mentioned a couple of things as far as the future for tab32. You talked a little bit further out this year with some exciting things on the AI side. Anything else you want to mention as we close things out? And then also want to make sure that the audience is able to contact you or somebody from your team. So I want to make sure we drop that contact information in the show notes. But website address is relatively easy, right? It's tab32.com, right? So that's easy enough. If they want to reach out to anybody on the team, do we have an email address that they can reach out to?
Absolutely. So I'll give you, we'll pass on the email address. We have a whole marketing team around and marketing and sales team. So we'll pass on that information to your viewers.
And we'll put that in, we'll drop that into the show notes for sure.
So so if I had to summarize where tab32 is going and what's exciting or next exciting stuff that we are approaching very quickly is, I talked about the platform, Bill, at the onset. That platform is the way to leverage and efficiencies for better care. Keeping that context in mind, we are very in short order releasing an entire ortho module, which is going to be part of our tab32 system. It's going to be an ortho practice management system entirely within that same concept. Besides that, there is surgery module as well coming up, which is going to address the surgery. Again, both of these are slated for Q3, Q4 of this year and targeted, along with an AI, which we are talking about. We have implemented some AIs and we are testing it with our focus group. It's an amazing stuff that is going to happen, but let's see again from the timing perspective of release. But those are three important things that are upcoming. Besides, one of the major announcement, if you would allow me to make over here, is that we are releasing a practice management agnostic imaging platform. So you can have any practice management leverage our cloud-based imaging platform at a very low cost. That is our upcoming module. It should have some PR and marketing going on by end of this quarter. And you will hear that this platform will allow our providers to have a couple things. One, those who wants to continue the practice management system, they can leverage our cloud-based imaging platform. It allows them to, offload their 7 or 10 years worth of imaging data, which is in huge terabytes, because it requires a lot of space. We can take it to the cloud, help them store and manage that. And then any future imaging systems, it happens on the cloud. So it's a big step in that direction for agnostic practice management systems that we are going to provide this imaging platform across the board and at the very low cost. And it's going to help providers reduce that burden of data management that happens. Because, coming back to that story, we are a data management company, and that's what we do, and we provide data solutions around that. So this is another innovation that's going to be rolled out very quickly.
Well, Kiltesh, tab32 certainly has a lot going on right now, so that's great. So we're going to keep our eyes open for that imaging platform to launch soon.
Yes.
And again, I mentioned earlier, if you want to find out, instead of an email address, you can go to tab32.com. And actually, if you click on the solutions tab, you'll see enterprise DSO practices, mobile dental practice, or solo. You're probably the enterprise, so you're going to click on that, and then you'll be able to find out more and be able to contact somebody at tab32. Kiltesh Patel, CEO, co-founder of tab32. Thanks for joining us on the Group Dentistry Now show. Appreciate it. We got a deep dive into informatics, data management, true cloud technology, your thoughts on AI, what tech debt is, all sorts of really cool stuff. So all you IT and technology geeks, this is definitely a great podcast for you. Thanks a lot, Kiltesh. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. Until next time, this is the Group Dentistry Now show.
The Group Dentistry Now show has listeners across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. If you like our show, subscribe today and please tell your colleagues about us.